I can't.
What you do?
I'm so sorry, chat. This is going to take me like 45 minutes to get through this 20-minute video. I'm so sorry. Did you see that Jimmy Dore endorsed Donald Trump for 2024? Okay, let's watch this Jimmy Dore shit. Jimmy Dore is a fucking moron. Jimmy Dore is a fucking dipshit. And most of the time I ignore him. But he's such a piece of shit. Sometimes the stuff he does. I mean, there's a right-wing psycho goes into drives 3.5 hours to go to a grocery store for black people and guns them down, and then you come out and make a video defending Tucker Carlson? You vile scum. Jimmy Dore comedy, dude. He has the same fucking bits that he had for 20 years. He's the biggest hack in the fucking planet.
Warmongering, bloodthirsty enemies of the people in the United States, they want to reinforce the culture war with this. And so they want to take this mass shooting by a maniac who expresses his love and devotion for white supremacist Nazis, like the ones we're funding in Ukraine. And now they're going to make it into you have to hate Republicans.
From what I understand, his manifesto was all over the place. Like, he was like 20 different things in his
the guy's a mental case.
It was
He's a mental case. The guy was a mental.
That's absolutely not true. He's a by the book fascist who was repeating the talking points put out by Tucker Carlson, but in a more extreme fashion. Instead of blaming the globalist elite, he just blamed Jews. He just took the argument and sharpened it to be a little bit more extreme. He wasn't all over the place at all. He was a clear fascist white supremacist. They're actually throwing fucking cover for a fascist mass murderer and just claiming he's a mental case. This is a perfect example of how our country treats white people. Is that if a white person does a mass shooting, if a white boy does a mass shooting, it's because he's a lone wolf, or he's mentally ill, or he's an isolated incident, and he's just crazy. But if a person of color or a Muslim does it, it's terrorism. They're part of Al Qaeda. We've got to oppress and monitor every Muslim in the entire country. There's just something about them. Holy hell!
Case, just like the guy who shot those Republican congressmen and blamed it on Rachel Maddow. Now, nobody actually thought it was Rachel Maddow's fault, but everyone wants to pretend that this is somehow.
Rachel Maddow says that we need to fight back against the Republican Party by any means necessary. Rachel Maddow is milquetoast. Her call to action is vote. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
A news person's fault. Like this guy, Lil Lockhart. He says, more blood on the hands of Tucker Carlson and Fox News. Right, because they just invented anti-immigrant policies, right? Because that's all this is about.
Tucker Carlson is the most watched cable news host, and his views on white replacement theory, the great replacement theory, are constantly thanked by white supremacists like David Duke. They frequently cite Tucker Carlson as a main vector for their ideas to get into the mainstream. Tucker Carlson's main writer from 2016 to 2020 was exposed as participating in white supremacist online forums, as well as stalking some random lady. So yeah, Fox News, one of the main vectors of this shit in our country, is responsible. Now, it's not the only vector. Places like 4chan, places on the internet are also vectors of this shit, but it's part of the same ecosystem. You fucking clownish dipshit. Why would you want to play PR for Tucker? Tucker doesn't represent any policies of the left. Not one. What policy is Tucker Carlson trying to advance that's going to help working people? What policy? Name one. And he's not even anti-war. He was pro-fucking Iraq war. He's pro-Afghanistan war. He's pro all the wars we've gotten involved in. He's pro expanding the military budget. Show me a clip of Tucker Carlson saying, let's cut the military.
More blood on the hands of Tucker Carlson and Fox News. This killer used their racist talking points to justify killing 10 people. Carlson won't stop because, as he explained to the New York Times, it's good for ratings. Lives be damned, as Carlson will be at Judgment Day. And here's another one. Here's by King Moron, Rob Reiner. Never met a dumb thing that won't come out of his head. Boy, if there was ever a guy aptly named as a character called Meathead, it's this fucking guy. The racist massacre in Buffalo rests at the feet of Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, and the GOP. There are not fine people on both sides. What about the lead poisoning deaths in Flint? Whose feet do they lay at? Barack Obama, right? Because he was president then, and he went there and he didn't fix it. So he's poisoning children. But let's pretend that some politicians are good and some politicians are bad. So this is all about Tucker Carlson having what they consider racist rhetoric around immigration. He's for strong borders, and he's constantly, he pushes that thing they call white replacement theory, right? So what he says is that the Democrats want the borders open so they can have Hispanics flood our country, and then they could register to vote, become citizens, register to vote, or I don't know, illegally vote.
Because they can't become citizens. You can't just come into the country and become a citizen. That's not a thing. The only way to become a citizen is you're related already to an American citizen, or you marry an American, or you get a highly coveted H-1B visa, which is almost impossible to get unless you have elite education. There's no way to come in the country and become a citizen. That's not a fucking thing. But Mike, what about anchor babies? Yeah, you can wait 30 years to get a citizenship through a child that is an American citizen. Good fucking luck.
Which, even though that never happens, and that every Hispanic that they allow into the country illegally is going to replace a white person voting, and they can take over our culture that way. That's called, I think I'm explaining it correctly. Maybe I'm not. But I think that's what they mean by white replacement theory, which is not new. Well, who would agree with Tucker Carlson on this? It sounds like Bernie Sanders agrees with Tucker Carlson's position on strong borders and keeping poor Hispanics out of our country for the same reason that Tucker Carlson's.
Holy shit. That is a total propaganda lie about what Bernie's position was. Bernie's position was that the type of immigration model that they're looking for, which is the status quo, is the Koch brothers immigration plan, which is to keep a underclass of people without status.
Says, because they're taking our jobs. You think I'm kidding? Here we go. Here's Bernie Sanders.
In what you said about being a democratic socialist is a more international view. But I think if you take global poverty that seriously, it leads you to conclusions that in the U.S. are considered out of political bounds. Things like sharply raising the level of immigration we permit, even up to a level of open borders, about sharply increasing
open borders.
Foreign aid.
That's a Koch brothers proposal. The
Really?
idea, of course. I mean, that's a right-wing proposal which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a lot of global.
That's what Tucker Carlson says. If you don't have a border and you don't control it, you don't have a country. That's exactly what Bernie Sanders just said.
That is not what Bernie Sanders said. What Bernie Sanders said is that if you don't have status for people who come into this country, they cannot get protections from labor rights. They don't have any access to government program. What the Koch brothers want is undocumented underclass that doesn't get Social Security, that doesn't get Medicare, which can't be a member of a union. If they start to organize, you could use the immigration enforcement mechanism to get them deported. That's what they want. That's the status quo, just by the way.
Isn't that also exactly what these people say about the border of Ukraine?
That's exactly what they say about it. Yes. Here we go. There's more to this.
Or richer, wouldn't it?
And it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with.
So he's saying if you have open borders and you allow immigration across our southern border, it will make everybody in the United States poorer. That's what he just said. Sounds like Tucker Carlson.
Wait, Ezra Klein is a real piece of shit, isn't he? I mean,
yes, he is.
Wow.
He's just a tool, like all of them. He's another Chuck Todd. He's another Jim Acosta. He's another Chris Hayes, Rachel Maddow. They all work for the same people.
And it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with the concept of a nation state. And I don't think there's any country in the world which believes in that. If you believe in a nation state, or in a country called the United States, or UK, or Denmark, or any other country, you have an obligation, in my view, to do everything we can to help poor people. What right-wing people in this country would love is an open border policy. Bring in all kinds of people who work for $2 or $3 an hour.
So Tucker Carlson says that's what Bernie Sanders wants to do, and Bernie Sanders says that's what Tucker Carlson wants to do. Isn't that weird?
I legitimately, so this is actually really like normally I would be mad by something like this, but I think it's a good instructive moment for everybody. Like, this is what happens when you don't have ideology, when you don't have a framework to understand, when you don't have dialectical materialism, when you don't understand the class struggle, when you don't understand what capital is and what the bourgeoisie is. You make dumb things like Jimmy Dore. You become a Jimmy Dore. You become a Jimmy Dore, which is you get confused by things that are happening because you don't have a framework to understand it. Bernie Sanders is talking about a trade unionist organized labor. Basically, the workers in America have these protections. And that's all the workers in America, including in recent immigrants, where they have the right to, in Bernie Sanders' future, they would have the right to a union. They would have a right to government services. They would have a right to the minimum wage. They would have the same rights as any other worker because they all are together in solidarity across racial lines. And what the Koch brothers were trying to do was to import basically foreign scabs, people from desperate people from other countries brought into the U.S. to undercut and work as replacement workers for American workers who have those protections. And it would create a system that incentivizes that, and that would cause racial tension. That would cause tension within the working class because you have these American workers who have those protections and who have the right to work, with OSHA, with an EPA, to have the minimum wage, to organize a union, being replaced by foreign workers that have none of those protections. And the moment they speak up, they can be, the employer can go, oh, that guy's trying to organize a union. ICE, I found an illegal worker, and get that guy deported. Bernie Sanders says, no, we're not going to have borders like that. We're not going to allow the Koch brothers to bring in a bunch of replacement workers to undermine the American trade union movement. That was Bernie Sanders' point. Tucker Carlson's point is that there's a secret cabal of globalist elites led by George Soros, wink, 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 who are trying to replace white people with subservient brown people who will vote for the Democrats. Does that sound anything alike? Like, you need to literally be brain dead to compare the two. And then going further, what is Bernie Sanders' solution for immigration? What's Tucker Carlson's solution for immigration? Tucker Carlson's solution for immigration is to strip birthright citizenship, to send in the military to the Mexican border, to send in a Gestapo to rip families apart, deport millions of people who have lived here for decades on racial lines, disenfranchise and disempower immigrant communities, and do a racial test on immigrants. Bernie Sanders' solution is have people come here and very quickly get legal status and citizenship so that they can become a part of that international labor movement. And we don't allow corporations to use foreign labor to scab American workers, whether they're recent immigrants or not. Completely opposite plan. Nothing alike whatsoever. And you'd have to be fucking stupid to put them together. You know who tried this move too? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton tried this same exact move in the 2016 primary. Hey, Jimmy, you remember that? You're doing Hillary Clinton shit right now, Jimmy Dore. Oops. 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 Jimmy Dore is now, I guess you wait long enough and you become a DNC Clinton shill. I guess you, whoops-a-daisy, become a Clinton shill. That's who you are, Jimmy Dore, a Clinton shill. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders tango over immigration in latest debate. That's the type of shit. That's the type of shit that used to go down.
I think that's weird.
I think you're stupid.
Great for them. I don't believe in that. I think we have to raise wages in this country. I think we have to do everything that we can to create the millions of jobs. You know what youth unemployment in the United States of America today? If you're white, a white kid, high school
30%?
graduate, 33%, a Hispanic, 36%, African-American, 51%.
51.
You think we should open the borders and bring in a lot of low-wage workers? Or do you think maybe we should try to get jobs for those kids? So I think from a moral responsibility, we've got to work with the rest of the industry.
So what he's saying is, if we let those Hispanics come over our border, they're going to take our jobs from our kids, which is exactly what they say on Fox News.
Bernie hates women and he's racist.
He's a misogynist and he's a racist.
Literally just repeating the talking points of the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016 in order to provide cover for Tucker Carlson. and no attempt to explain what Bernie Sanders was trying to Bernie Sanders is trying to say about the history of scab labor in this country and using the desperation of foreign workers to undermine solidarity and create racial tension, which is what capitalists want to do. Absolute grifter.
As well, to address the problems of international poverty, but you don't do that by making people in this country even poorer.
So then what are the responsibilities we have?
Now, let's remember, he supports an administration, two of them, Barack Obama and Joe Biden, which takes immigrants and puts their kids in cages. That's who he supports. They did not. By the way, they're putting more kids in cages than under Trump. No one cares, including Bernie Sanders.
By the way, that's not true at all, you fucking lying piece of shit. Bernie Sanders has been on the cutting edge of trying to create a robust and fair immigration system. It's centrist scum who like the status quo. Joe Biden is a liar. And we all knew it, which is why we supported Bernie. Bernie Sanders doesn't support that. AOC doesn't support that. They've both criticized the Biden administration on that. You're a fucking liar. And here's an example. If you think he hates AOC, right? He hates AOC, right? AOC slams Biden's barbaric border conditions, says families deserve reparations. AOC slams Biden immigration plan. He just lied about them. He just lied about them. You're a fucking piece of shit. You're a lying sack of shit, Jimmy. And you're a right-wing grifter just like Dave Rubin. You are Dave Rubin, you fucking loser. I'm really curious. Is there any I want to search Dave Rubin on Jimmy Dore's thing. I want to see what he says about Dave Rubin. Did he not make any Dave Rubin videos in his entire career, or did he delete them? He has Ben Shapiro reveals his inner bigot.
So I don't know if you know who Ben Shapiro is.
I love him.
So he goes on this show with Dave Rubin, who I used to work with at the Young Turks. He's a very affable guy when you meet him, and he's very charming. And but he's trying to get Ben Shapiro to like him.
All he has on Dave Rubin is how much he likes Dave Rubin. Incredible grifter. Wow.
Isn't that racist? Because when Trump did it, it was racist. And people went and AOC cried at the gate. Now they all pretend it's not even happening. But
oh, is that right? You lying sack of shit. Oh, is that right, you lying sack of shit? Here's AOC on MSDNC attacking Biden on an immigrant. I thought she was just pretending it's not. Actual disinformation liar. Apologize to AOC. Apologize to AOC, you piece of shit.
But they want you to focus on Tucker Carlson doing and saying the same things that right-wingers have said forever and Bernie Sanders is saying.
If that kind of zero-sum calculation, right, between someone who is poor by U.S. standards but is quite well off by, say, Malaysian standards, redounds so easily to the benefit of the person in the U.S., and how do we think about that responsibility?
All right, so what this Vox liberal is trying to say to Bernie is, American workers should accept $7.25 an hour because Malaysian workers accept $1 an hour. So we can organize, it doesn't matter if the American worker produces $100 an hour in value for their corporation. They should accept $7.25 because somewhere out there is a poorer country with less labor rights. And we should allow those workers to come in and replace American workers to work at $7.25 or $2 or whatever, because that's better than the one they'd make in Malaysia. Neoliberal scum. Neoliberal scum in a nutshell. You don't care about Malaysians because you want American workers to have strong labor protections? You're a racist. Don't pay attention to this white billionaire making all the money from that intra-worker competition that I have now fostered. You fucking scum. I hate these libs.
I guess I'm asking here for, I agree, you have a nation state structure. You always are going to. The politics don't allow anything else. But I guess philosophically the question is, how do you weight it? How do you think about what the foreign aid budget would be? How do you think about poverty abroad?
And I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, again, as a United States Senator from Vermont, my first obligation, frankly, is to make certain that kids in my state and kids all over this country have the ability to go to college, which is why I am supporting tuition-free public colleges and universities. I believe we should create millions of jobs rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and ask the wealthiest people in this country to start paying their fair share of taxes. I believe we should raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour so people in this country are not living in poverty. And I think we end the disgrace of some 20% of our kids living in poverty.
Now, he's not willing to do anything political to make that happen. He's not willing to stick his chin out and rip.
What? Bernie Sanders is not willing to stick his chin out. He ran as an independent against both the Republican and the Democratic Party at the same time. He turns down the Democratic Party nomination for Senate so he can maintain his independent status. He's done more to change the politics of Vermont, you know, the place he's from, than any other human being ever. He turned Vermont from a safe Republican state to a far left state. He did that. Incredible brain of this pathetic loser.
Risk anything and go against his own party to make sure any of that happens. He's not going to do anything to make sure that happens, but he will talk about it.
What? He specifically called out both Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin last week by name on the morning show, on a Sunday morning show. I think you mean Joe Biden is not willing to do anything about that. He's an absolute lying sack of shit. Imagine liking Jimmy Dore. You have to be a fucking scum. He's pure scum.
Now, how do you do that?
I can't.
What you do that?
I'm so sorry, chat. This is going to take me like 45 minutes to get through this 20-minute video. I'm so sorry.
Huge redistribution of wealth in the last 30 years from the middle class to the top 0.1%. Now, the other thing that you understand...
You know what he could do to really do that, chat? Is if he went on Jimmy Dore's program. If he went on Jimmy Dore's program and talked about Force the Vote and how Jimmy Dore was a genius for coming up with Force the Vote 2 years ago... Then he would be putting his money where his mouth out. He'd be putting his chin out then.
Globally, is you have horrendous imbalance in terms of wealth in the world. As I mentioned earlier, the top 1% will own more than the bottom 99% in a year or so. That's absurd. And that takes you to programs like the IMF and so forth and so on. But I think what we need to be doing as a global economy is making sure that people in poor countries have decent paying jobs, have education, have health care, have nutrition for their people. That is a moral responsibility.
Yeah, we're not doing that for this country. He's talking about doing that for other countries, so they don't want to come here. But he's not going to tell you what's actually doing it. It's our policies in Central and South America that are destabilizing the region.
What? Bernie Sanders was fucking attacked for defending the literacy programs of Cuba. He was attacked in the New York Times, and then he specifically said to the New York Times reporter, because he was apparently anti-American chants, when he went physically to Latin America and Nicaragua to support them, Jimmy Dore, you fucking bitch! You are a piece of human filth. You are a piece of human filth. Fucking shut your fucking mouth, you rat. Here it is right here, chat. In case you're wondering, here's some receipts. I know Jimmy Dore doesn't understand what receipts are or honesty or truth. I did my best to stop American foreign policy. Bernie Sanders on the 80s discusses his long-held opposition to war and his support for socialist leaders. The New York Times detailed Mr. Sanders' foreign policy views during his mayoralty, including on the Sandinista government in Nicaragua and on the Soviet Union, and how his activities at the time brought into relief the fervently anti-imperialist worldview that would continue to guide him. Let me just say this. I plead guilty to, throughout my adult life, doing everything I can to prevent war and destruction. I was active in opposition to the war in Vietnam. As mayor, I did my best to stop American foreign policy, which for years was overthrowing governments in Latin America and installing puppet regimes. I did everything that I could as a mayor of a small city to stop the United States from getting involved in another war in Central America, trying to overthrow a government. I did my best. We had a sister city program with Yaroslav and with another city, Puerto Cabezas in Nicaragua. And I happen to believe that cultural exchanges and student exchanges are a very important tool to try to bring people together and avoid wars. I led the opposition to the war in Iraq. I voted against the first war and I voted against the second war. I've done everything I can to try to get the United States out of Yemen. And I will do everything I can to see us not getting involved in a war in Iran. That's my view, and I make no apologies for it. In the top of our story, we talk about the rally you attended in Managua, and a Wire report at the time said there were anti-American chants from the crowd. The United States at the time, I don't know how much you know about this, was actively supporting the Contras to overthrow the government. So there's anti-American sentiment. I remember that. I remember that event very clearly. Do you recall hearing those chants? I think the Wire report has them saying, here, there, everywhere, the Yankee will die. They were fighting against American. Yes. What's your point? Are you shocked to learn there was anti-American sentiment? I don't remember. No, of course there was anti-American sentiment there. There was a war being funded by the United States against the people of Nicaragua. People were being killed in that war. Here's Bernie Sanders in the middle of his presidential campaign talking about American crimes in Nicaragua in the New York Times and not backing down one iota. Let's go back to what Jimmy Dore just said.
The people in poor countries have decent paying jobs, have education,
what did Jimmy say he
have
did?
healthcare, have nutrition for their people. That is a moral responsibility.
Yeah, we're not doing that for this country. He's talking about doing that for other countries, so they don't want to come here. But he's not going to tell you what's actually doing it. It's our policies in Central and South America that are destabilizing the region. And Joe Biden's doing it. And Barack Obama did it before that.
But you don't do that, as some would suggest, by lowering the standard of American workers, which has already gone down very significantly.
So there you go. There's Bernie Sanders sounding a lot like what people think Tucker Carlson sounds like.
There is nothing similar to how Tucker Carlson and Bernie Sanders sound, you fucking lying sack of shit. I think Jimmy Dore is the lowest form of life on the planet. You know, he got a career drafting off of the movement of Bernie Sanders and AOC and the people who are actually trying to change this country for the better. He got a media job out of it, and now he's going to take those followers and viewers he got who believed in Bernie, and he's going to try to pivot them into Tucker Carlson conservatives and / fascists for his own profit. What a fucking scum. Absolute quisling motherfucker piece of shit. Jimmy, I hate you more than almost anyone could possibly be hated. You suck. Fuck you and your $1 million mansion in LA.
I like Ezra Klein, like, yeah, sure, a lot of these Black Americans are poor by American standards, but they should stop complaining when they see those people crossing the border.
That's right. So here is Bill Clinton. Want to hear what Bill? I don't know if he sounds like Tucker Carlson, but let's see.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration
Bill Clinton is a right winger, a shock of shocks.
Moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal.
Is this bad or good, Jimmy? Is this bad or good? Right-wing Democrats hold views similar to right-wing conservatives. News at 11. This is bad. How does this? Did the shooter say that Bill Clinton is his mentor? Was this kid? The kid wasn't even alive when Bill Clinton was president. He's 18. He didn't see this State of the Union speech, Jimmy. You fucking dipshit.
Hiring by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of law.
Of fucking corporate tools who want to shit and demonize and scapegoat these people as we destabilize their countries.
What alien? Like, have you heard the word aliens used that much? And like, he didn't even say dreamers,
right? No, that's called demonizing immigrants and blaming them for our problems. And Bill, that wasn't the only time Bill Clinton. By the way, there's more to this at the end.
All Americans. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen.
And by the way, none of this has to do with whether or not what the immigration policy should be. This is a conservative view of what immigration policy is. If anything, it refutes what Tucker Carlson says. Tucker Carlson says Democrats want to replace white people with compliant voters from the third world. Here you have a clip of Bill Clinton saying that we need to enforce our borders, undermining what Tucker Carlson was saying, which is what the kid was saying. What are you even talking about? They are not this is not replacement theory. This is just a conservative. That's different. than what replacement theory is. What are you talking about, Jimmy? You found the conservative Democrats saying conservative shit on immigration. You found Bernie Sanders saying that he doesn't want to have a Koch brothers immigration policy that undermines American native workers. No fucking shit. This has nothing to do with replacement theory.
In recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
And they all stand.
So the Democrats are applauding a conservative immigration policy that, while at the same time they're actually trying to do a cabal to replace whites? This makes no sense. What are you fucking talking about, Jimmy? God damn it, he's so stupid.
There's Bill Clinton doing his best Tucker Carlson.
What? Tucker Carlson says that Democrat elites are trying to and globalists are trying to replace the white man with third world voters. Jimmy is so fucking stupid. Legitimately one of the dumbest motherfuckers to ever live.
That's Bill Clinton doing his best Tucker Carlson. And believe me, I could show you video after video after video like that. I could show you videos of Hillary Clinton advocating for building a wall between us and Mexico. I could also show you this.
Because we have finally gotten more police officers on the street. That was one of the goals that the president had when he pushed the crime bill.
And that works out for black and brown people, doesn't it? When you put more cops on the street and put more people in prison.
You know, you're defending Tucker Carlson, right? The guy who wanted to bring in the military on Black Lives Matter protesters. Jimmy, is your brain mush? This is way worse than the Brianna Joy Gray video, which was embarrassing, but at least she tried to loop it into some sort of coherence. He's a fucking dumbass.
Prison. They exploded the prison population at the same time they were gutting welfare. And they had
Which is what Tucker Carlson agrees with.
Sister Soldier moment. And they were demonizing immigrants as they were deregulating Wall Street, which would crash the economy within 10 years, hurting who the worst? Black and brown people.
By the way, what do you think prison labor does to the wages even more than illegal?
Great point, Kurt, great point. What do you think prison labor does to the wages of Americans? And who championed prison labor? The Clintons and the Democrats and Joe Biden.
And Kamala.
The illegal aliens are positively greedy compared to what the prisoners get paid.
That's right. But keep your focus on a news host instead of people who actually have power. There's more to this. Watch this.
Passed in 1994. He promised 100,000 police. We're moving in that direction, but we can.
So the purpose of this, obviously this is incoherent, but the point is to make you not like Bernie Sanders, not like Hillary Clinton, and not like people who are attacking Tucker Carlson and linking his ideas with the ideas of the Buffalo shooter, which is two dots that are about a millimeter apart. An insect could connect the dots between the Buffalo shooter and Tucker Carlson's great replacement theory. And here he is showing various different clips of conservative Democrats 30 years ago. The shooter was 18, saying shit that we disagree with, which is why we supported Bernie in the first place, because he didn't say this kind of stuff. But Jimmy Dore is trying to protect the guy who is far right and wants to do more of this. Jimmy Dore, I legitimately, like, even from the perspective of like making money, you are scum.
See, it already makes a difference, because if we have more police interacting with people, having them on the streets, we can prevent crimes. We can prevent petty crimes from turning into something worse. But we also have to have an organized effort against gangs. Just as in a previous generation, we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
Can't we just hire them at the CIA? It sounds like they'd be great.
Yeah.
Why don't we just...
So, I don't know. Does that sound like Tucker Carlson? That we got to get the FBI on these black kids because they're super predators. Black kids are super predators and they have no empathy. They have no anything like a normal human being. And we could talk about how they got there. You mean you could talk about The horrible racism in America that led to this, or the criminal justice policies that split families up, that over police black and brown poor people and put them in prison at much higher rates, devastating their communities for the same drug use that white people use, 16 times more cocaine. That anyway, it's just not, but she doesn't care. These are people who are propagandists, who are appealing to the worst in people and demonizing and scapegoating the people with no power in our society, the victims of capitalism, racism, and our government. She's demonizing them and scapegoating them. That's what Hillary Clinton did. That's what Bill Clinton did. And then, of course, you know what Barack Obama and Joe Biden did. They built cages and put them in it. So you can go ahead and pretend that Tucker Carlson is worse than Bill Clinton or Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or the Barack Obama or the Democratic Party or corporate America in general. But that would make you a repeater of propaganda and a dupe.
I'm sorry, Chad. I just started staring into space because their shit is so boring and stupid. I don't even know what the fuck to say. They're dumb as hell. I feel like this is just pointless to continue at this point. I think we've gotten enough. We've gotten enough of this video. It's just the same shit. It's just the same shit. I don't need to see anything more. Jimmy, you're a fucking moron. And pretty much everything he said was a total lie. You have an obligation to like, comment, and subscribe.